Good afternoon, everybody. So glad that you are joining us today. Before we get started, we wanted to note just a few housekeeping points. To avoid background noise, all participants will be muted for the duration of the webinar. We'll be addressing questions at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions as the webinar continues, just please enter them into the questions box, which is located on the right-hand side of your screen if viewing from a computer, or at the bottom of your screen if you're viewing from a phone. If you have any comments or concerns during the webinar, please also enter those into the questions box. We'll review and address any immediate needs as they occur. A recording of this webinar will be emailed to each registrant tomorrow. The recording will also be available on our website at www.namimaryland.org. That's www.namimd.org for any individuals that were unable to attend live today. After the webinar today, you'll be asked to complete a short survey on all the aspects of this webinar that you felt were helpful or could be improved, and what you'd like to see in future webinars. We plan to continue hosting educational webinars, and we ask that you please fill out this survey to let us know how NAMI Maryland can best support you during this time. Also, we're excited to partner with Betterhelp to support our local healthcare workers by providing access to a free month of therapy. Betterhelp is convenient, private, online therapy where you can talk to a licensed professional therapist at any time. If you are a healthcare worker, including mental health and or substance use provider, be sure to fill out the post-webinar feedback form to receive instructions and your discount code. Now, I would like to hand it over to our moderator, Gia Greer-McGinnis.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Gia Greer-McGinnis, a member of NAMI Maryland's Board of Directors, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. We are so excited you're here to learn about compassion practices and how it can help you during this stressful and uncertain time. NAMI Maryland supports you in the hard work you do, and we want you to benefit from your time with us today. In times of challenge and adversity, our natural human tendency is often to close our hearts and shut down. For frontline workers, including healthcare and public safety professionals, compassion fatigue and burnout is nearly inevitable. The effects of stress and trauma are even greater now with the seemingly endless COVID-19 pandemic. Now is a time to find ways to cultivate compassion for those we serve, and most importantly, for ourselves. Compassion practices are well supported through neuroscientific research and offer a pathway to building a strong foundation for self-care and resilience. Today, we are hosting Beth Terrence. She will help us explore compassion practices. This session will include discussion and experiential practices such as meditation and mindfulness, gratitude, and cultivating connection. CEUs are not provided for today's webinar, but a certificate of attendance will be sent to each registered participant tomorrow afternoon. I'd now like to introduce our speaker for today's webinar, Beth Terrence. Ms. Terrence is the founder and lead facilitator of Holistic Recovery Pathways, LLC. She is a trained shaman, holistic practitioner, and restorative facilitator. She is a certified peer recovery specialist in Maryland and nationally. She recently completed her Master of Science degree in restorative practices through the International Institute of Restorative Practices. Beth's vision is to help create a healthier and more nurturing world by supporting individuals, families, and communities in finding hope, healing, and a deeper sense of connection and belonging. She is known for her engaging and experiential programming, which includes holistic workshops, wellness retreats, and trainings. She is strongly committed to supporting organizations and systems in building cultures of health, well-being, and inclusivity. Beth lives in Annapolis, Maryland with her loving partner, Mario, and their two cats, Paulo and Zena. Beth loves to spend her free time writing, hiking, meditating, and lying on her hammock looking up at the sky. Thank you for joining us today, Ms. Terrence.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you all today and appreciate the invitation and support of NAMI Maryland and the Frontline Workers Series. So I really look forward to exploring with everyone. I'm gonna just take a moment to pull up the slide presentation. Okay, so our topic today is compassion practices, building a foundation for self-care and resilience. And I like to start with just practicing that in some way. So we'll take a few minutes to do a settling in meditation and really welcome ourselves together in this moment. So I invite you, wherever you are, to find a comfortable position. If you're sitting on a chair, it's good to have your feet flat on the floor, your spine straight but not tense. Some people like to just lean into the back of the chair or maybe lean towards the forward edge to have your feet rooted and just resting flat on the floor. If you're in a place where you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes or just have a soft gaze downward towards the floor or table in front of you. And as you're beginning to just settle into your seat, letting your body settle, you can take some deeper breaths, breathing in for a count of 5 and out for a count of 5, just allowing your body and your mind to begin to slow down, to unwind. As you notice any tension in your physical body, you can just imagine gently hooking that tension with the in-breath and letting it go with the out-breath. And also, if you notice any busyness in your mind, any thoughts or worries of the day, you can gently just imagine hooking those with your in-breath. Maybe they're felt somewhere in your body or your mind. And as you breathe in, just gathering those stresses or worries and then sending them out with the out-breath. Just like a cloud passes by in the sky, you notice it, and then it simply drifts away. And now letting your breath fall back to its own natural rhythm, wherever it feels to rest in this moment without deepening or changing it. Just noticing how that feels, to just take a few moments to be present with yourself, with your breath and awareness, with your body, mind, emotion, and spirit. And I'd like to share a little bit more of a practice that will be part of what we talk about later in compassion practices of cultivating connection. So I'm going to invite you now in this place of settledness and stillness to think of a place in nature. This can be a real place you've been before, somewhere you love, maybe the beach, by the ocean, or maybe in the mountains. Maybe even in your own garden, there's a place you've just created. So just any place in nature that can be real, or it can be even if you have a dream of going to Tahiti or Alaska or somewhere where you just feel like that place in nature really speaks to you and you feel that sense of ah when you think of this place. So beginning to just think of and call that place in nature, whether real or imagined, into your awareness. And then really just seeing and sensing yourself in that place as if you're really there right now. Feeling the earth beneath your feet or your body. Perhaps you're laying on the beach. Hearing all the sounds that might be present there. Sounds of nature, the water, the wind, any birds or animals. feeling the air on your skin, the sun on your face. Really taking in all of the sensations of that place as if you're really there. And any smells or scents of that place. Allowing yourself to just breathe in all of those sensations. And also, as you're connecting with them, feel the sense of peace and calm and rest that comes from being in that place. And as you breathe in, really invite that in, every atom and cell of your being. The calm, the connection that comes to you from being in this place that's meaningful to you. If any stress or worries arise, you can just breathe them out on the out breath into the space, just knowing it can receive them, transform them. You're just really nurturing yourself with the energy of this place that speaks to you, that allows you to open and rest in a way that's maybe deeper than just your everyday experience. And from that place of connection, I just invite you to allow an intention to emerge for yourself, some way of feeling or being, a quality perhaps that you'd like to cultivate that maybe you feel right now, or as you really are in these nature spaces. Perhaps it's peace or serenity, strength. So just allow that to bubble up. It may come as a word or an image or a feeling. And if it doesn't come, you're just holding that intention. I just think of something, maybe even an object in this place in nature that you'd like to pick up and bring back with you as a reminder that you can always connect in each and every moment. Just breathing that energy, that quality into your whole body, your whole being on your in-breath, letting it fill and nourish you, and then sending it out on your out-breath, letting it also surround and envelop you. And then when you're ready, you can take a few deeper breaths. Again, feeling the rise and fall of your chest, allowing your body to move a little, maybe move your hands and feet. And if your eyes are closed, you can open them or raise your gaze. And so I say welcome once again. I think we've always landed a little more once we take some time to settle. And as I mentioned, we'll talk about this practice of connecting in nature in a little bit. So I thank Gia for the wonderful introduction. I don't want to take too much more time to introduce myself, but just wanted to share a few of my hats. And I know others have many hats, and I have quite a few that I've cultivated over the years. And so the few that are related to our topic are being a holistic health practitioner for over 25 years, trained as a shaman, which is a form of spiritual healing that originates in indigenous cultures, and the foundation in the shamanic healing traditions is that connection is the foundation of well-being, and that's something we'll be talking about today. And I just got my master's degree, actually finally graduated in November in restorative practices, which is an emerging social science that also focuses on connection and belonging. I'm here in Maryland, a certified peer recovery specialist. That's how I first connected with NAMI, as well as nationally. And I am a person with lived experience in recovery for addiction, trauma, and the physical condition of fibromyalgia, as well as a family member and ally. And I'm also we're talking about compassion practices today. I just wanted to share I have been practicing meditation and mindfulness since actually I was a teenager, but compassion practices have been really an anchor for me personally over the last 20 years, and for the last 10, I've led a program on loving kindness called Mayas per Metta, as well as facilitating mindfulness programs through Shine, which is an organization in the Baltimore area. If you'd like, I know we have a large group, so I can't do a check-in. I love to get to know who's in the room. I feel your energy. But if you'd like to share your name, maybe what role you're in, as we're focusing on frontline workers today, and if there's anything you received from your meditation, a quality or energy or just something that you noticed, you can share that too in the chat. So just for our topics today, just a brief overview. We're going to talk just a little bit about self-care and resilience, some of the challenges for frontline workers and the effects of stress and trauma. And then we'll delve into exploring self-compassion, compassion practices, and particularly 3 practices: loving kindness meditation, gratitude practice, and cultivating connection. And I will, let's see, okay. So, just lost my slide, there we go, okay. So let's begin with what is self-care. And I think everybody kind of has a sense of what this is, but I want to just touch on it a little bit, some things I'm thinking about in terms of keywords and, thinking about really the activities and practices that we use to support ourselves in being well and addressing stress and just life. Just life is challenging, and so we need to have those practices proactive and responsively. I think that managing stress, involves just really knowing ourselves. That's something that is really important. Getting to know ourselves, and self-compassion, as we'll explore, is a way we can begin to explore that. And I think the last point there, empowering us to create balance and equilibrium across personal, social, and work lives, is something that's really important. And that I think actually we got an early question for the Q&A, and I'll talk more about it when we get there. But that's one of the key factors in self-care. Having a slide issue. Let's see what happened. Okay, I think I hope everybody's seeing a holistic approach. I'm not sure what happened. So I do want to just check we're there. So I do talk a lot about a holistic approach. As I mentioned, that's been a foundation for me personally and professionally for over 25 years. And when we talk about self-care, I believe it's really important to talk about the whole self: body, mind, emotion, and spirit. And this quote that comes from Rumer Godin on a wonderful site, notsalmon.com, Karen Samuelson, talks a lot about happiness and well-being. Says there's an Indian belief that everyone is a house of 4 rooms: a physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional room. Most of us tend to live in one room most of the time, but unless we go into every room every day to keep, even if only to keep it aired, we aren't complete. And so sometimes we do really need to look at that, our whole self. And sometimes we need to attend to one of those rooms more, such as maybe our body or our emotions. So I'm not going to delve too deeply into that today, but wanted to plant that seed there in terms of self-care. And so I just wanted to offer these 5 essential self-care practices to be thinking about, and they'll actually come back through as we go into compassion practices and some of their benefits, because they actually really support these 5 areas. There's certainly many ways you can structure self-care, as I mentioned, maybe taking a holistic approach, but considering these 5 areas is a wonderful way to kind of be building your self-care. So there's sleep, exercise, eating well, relaxation, and connection. And, and sometimes I didn't put space in today because of our time, but journaling or creating a journal for self-care can be a wonderful way to be working with that. And then, if you consider these 5 categories, looking at, what you're doing to support that, maybe what are some of your obstacles or behaviors or patterns that you need to work on or change. So, and it'll be wonderful to see when we get to compassion practices how much this is supported. Resilience. Resilience is defined as the ability to recover and continue on in the face of adversity without being overwhelmed or act in dysfunctional and unhealthy ways. It's also described as becoming strong, healthy, and successful again after something happens or difficult or challenging happens. And it's the ability to recover from setbacks and adapt well to change and crisis. And so certainly, I think this is something we all face, particularly in our current world. But as frontline workers, there's a continual need to be facing adversity and recovering. And so thinking about this in terms of the short-term, immediate, ability to come back, but also what the impact is on the long term and how to work with that. So I started to make a slide of some of the challenges that frontline workers face, and I decided to just put a question out because I know that the folks on this call are the experts in the room. I have been in the role of frontline worker several times in my life, working in a homeless clinic, New York Children's Health Project, which is a clinic for homeless children in New York City, working in a psychiatric unit of a hospital in New York in my early career, and as a peer support specialist here in Maryland, but not currently. So I'd love to hear just some of your biggest challenges if you want to share them in the chat. And I'm going to continue, and we'll maybe take a peek back at that in a few minutes. Okay. So as we're talking about resilience and self-care, one of the things that came up was learning how to manage and care for ourselves with the impact of stress and trauma. And again, I think everybody's experiencing that in some way, but for those of us in the role of frontline workers, it's even more concentrated, particularly during this time of the COVID pandemic. So, so just wanted to touch on some of those areas, which I'm sure you're all aware of, but I think sometimes one of the things about stress is that we're experiencing it, but we're not always conscious of the cumulativeness of it. So I really do just wanted to put this out there. There's trauma on the job, particularly, maybe what you're experiencing personally, or being a part of. There's and witnessing trauma on the job, vicarious trauma that you receive when you're hearing stories from other people that you're working with, which can lead to compassion fatigue that can come on pretty quickly, and burnout, which is more longer term, the buildup of just all the stress and trauma over time. Certainly there's increased pressure and responsibilities during the pandemic, a lot of concern for safety personally and for family. I've heard from a lot of folks about overwork and not being able to take time off because there's just maybe people out or not enough people to manage the current situation, and difficulty accessing support at the same time, anxiety and depression have been on the rise. So I do want to take a look here. I'm just reading a few. I see questions. Okay. Didn't know if anybody posted any. No work. Okay. Okay. Staff shortages. Okay, here's some of the challenges I just thought I'd see. Okay. So yes, I think that's one of the main challenges right now is staff challenges and the impact that has on the staff that are there. And so as we move forward, we'll talk a little bit more about how to work with that, even when time and energy is at the limit. I'm going backwards somehow. Sorry, okay. Okay, sorry guys. So many frontline workers and HPs, which HPs are helping professionals, not highly sensitive people, if some people know that acronym, are motivated by a desire to serve and support. Giving to yourself is often second nature. Saying yes to yourself can be uncomfortable, and it often means maybe saying no to another person. So this can often seem selfish, and I want to say that this is one of the mindset challenges to practicing self-compassion that they found is, and it's a very Western tendency. The Dalai Lama, who's the leader of the Buddhist, Tibetan Buddhist tradition, when he comes to the West, he always says that it seems like Westerners have a harder time loving themselves and being compassionate to themselves, whereas in the Buddhist tradition, and we'll talk about it a little more when we move to loving kindness, the idea that we need to love ourselves and be compassionate to ourselves first is the foundation through which we're able to extend that out to others. So there's a little bit of a mindset shift that we need to explore around this. And certainly wanting to give and is what drives, that passion for being of service and being a helping or caring professional. And it can also be an obstacle to our self-care and resilience and being able to maintain that. Parker Palmer, who is a sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my screen, so that's where okay, there we go. Is an author and social change activist. Says self-care is never a selfish act. It is simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer others. And so again, here's that shift from maybe considering self-care as selfish to it's part of good stewardship, and that's what we really need to have when we're in the role of helping and being of service. So just really want that to land. I mentioned in this title description, and I don't know if it's what maybe drew anybody, but that in a lot of spiritual traditions, they talk about returning to the well, to replenish ourselves, to nourish ourselves. So we do have that energy and strength and vitality to give. And that's what practicing self-care and self-compassion offers us. Okay, so moving on to compassion, I wanted to share just a definition, probably most common definition of compassion is to suffer together. And another definition from emotion researchers, which was shared by the Greater Good of UC Berkeley, says it's the feeling that arises when you're confronted with another's suffering and feel motivated to relieve that suffering. And that, just to note, is a little different than empathy, which tends to be taking another's perspective and feeling, or sensing the emotions that they may be feeling. So, So I just wanted to really delve into self-compassion as we're starting, because again, our focus is building a foundation of self-care and resilience. And this quote comes from Whitlock and others from the University of Utah who've done a good amount of work with self-compassion. They say self-compassion is the ongoing practice of relating to yourself kindly and fairly. It is especially helpful during times of stress and suffering. Self-compassion is not kicking yourself when you're down, which prolongs stress reactions, creates more suffering, and delays your ability to get back up. Instead, self-compassion is about treating yourself as you would treat a good friend in distress. It's about responding with caring support. And I really like to, one of the things I loved about this definition, it mentions that idea of treating yourself as a good friend in distress. A lot of times when we have a friend or a family member in distress, you know, we can be really gentle and caring and compassionate with them. But when it's ourselves, we may have a tendency to be harsh or push ourselves or just, you know, try and overcome. And sometimes we need to do that. I don't want to negate that in any way. But this perspective is a way we can begin to maybe invite in gentleness and compassion for ourselves. So just asking, you know, what would a good friend say to me now, or what would I say to them, you know, when they're in this difficult situation? And that can be a way to begin to really open up to working with that. So there's a lot of research today on compassion and self-compassion, and as you can see, just from a few points at the bottom, it's addressing a lot of what we're talking about in terms of building self-care, increasing well-being and resilience to stress and trauma, helping cultivate positive, healthy behaviors and minimize negative ones. It just really improves motivation, energy, confidence, our sense of responsibility, as well as relationships and connection. And the last one, helps sustain the act of caring for others. And, you know, that is something that's essential in the roles of frontline workers and other helping professionals. And so it's really essential, I think. Maybe that should have been the title of this topic, but I think people are here, so it seems like there's an inner knowing that this is really important, you know, for sustainability. So the Dalai Lama said, when you can't control what's happening, challenge yourself to control the way you respond to what's happening. That's where your power is. And another quote I just wanted to add to that I was thinking of was Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He said, between stimulus and response lies a space. In that space lies our freedom and our power to choose a response. In our response lies our growth and happiness. And it's when we are taking time and cultivating compassion and inner knowing and care that we have the ability to begin to make that choice. We can't always control what's happening inside, but we can work with what is arising within us. So when we're talking about self-compassion, there's three essential elements that were defined by Kristen Neff and Chris Gerber and their colleagues, who are probably leaders in the field of self-compassion research. They're mindfulness, being aware of physical, emotional, or mental pain of the moment. Also, another definition from John Kabat-Zinn is being in the present moment non-judgmentally. And then there's self-kindness, so treating ourselves with kindness, considering our own needs. And I do really feel, again, that if we can think about how a loving friend would be kind to us, or how we would be kind to our child or our parent in that situation, sometimes can really open us to tuning into what that self-kindness might look like for us. And then there's common humanity, recognizing that these experiences are a normal part of human being. That we're all unique and we're all similar. And we have feelings and experiences. We're not alone in those feelings or experiences. Another aspect here, came to mind as I was preparing is that for frontline workers, people in, you know, in helping professions, sometimes there's that sense that we need to be superhuman. And again, maybe there are times we need to, but there's also a need to recognize that we are human and that we have, you know, whatever we experience affects us. And I think that's, you know, just acknowledging that is a part of self-compassion. So the first compassion practice I wanted to introduce is loving kindness meditation, which originates from the Buddhist tradition, a practice called metta, and which does mean loving kindness. But it's also a secular practice today, and there's a lot of research on the field on the practice of loving kindness, which is exciting. We're in a time when science meets spirituality, and we can really, you know, people have been practicing meditation, mindfulness for thousands of years, but now science can tell us and show us really how that works. And so that's very exciting time to be in, and it sometimes makes it more accessible for us. So, so I wanted to start with some of the benefits. A lot of positive benefits, increasing positive emotions, our well-being, enhancing our emotional processes, being more in tune with emotions, and increasing empathy, as well as social connection. Also reduces self-criticism for those of us who have a very strong inner critic, which I definitely do. I've made a lot of progress, but it's an area I continue to work on, and loving kindness is one of the practices that supports that. Just overall increases our compassion to ourselves and others. And then there's research that shows it helps to ease PTSD symptoms, depression, and other traumas, as well as kind of very interesting and exciting. Maybe some folks are more familiar with this or not, but it actually improves physical health, decreases inflammation, and improves immune function. And so that's something we all need in general, but right now, I guess that's one of the things like I'd like to see more of, and part of why I feel like this is an important topic is, you know, finding ways that we can be improving our immune function at the same time as we're, you know, working on protecting or preventing illness. So loving kindness practice works with a number of categories. In a moment, I'm going to lead a loving kindness practice. And so, but I just wanted to introduce these categories. We'll just focus on the self category today. And maybe a little bit at the end, I'll add something else. I hope we'll have enough time. So, so there's the self, and again, I mentioned the Dalai Lama talks about building that foundation of self-compassion, of loving kindness for yourself as a way to then extend that out to others. And then the other categories, and these are from the traditional Buddhist practice, but adapted as part of loving kindness, sometimes known as LKM meditation, is a mentor or benefactor. So maybe a grandparent or a teacher or your mentor who really feel those only positive qualities, a beloved friend or family member. So again, someone who, when you think of them, you really feel that sense of love and compassion. Sometimes we have a family member, we think of them and we have that positive feeling, but then also we feel a resentment come up or something, and that we can work with maybe further along in the difficult person. We really want to be, in the first part, be cultivating those positive feelings. And neutral being is just someone, maybe the person who checked you out at the coffee shop today, or someone you pass on the street. You don't have any feelings positively or negatively for this person. And then a difficult person, which traditionally difficult person was called the enemy, so pretty intense. But it could be just someone that we feel frustrated with or have an irritation. And then the last category is all beings, which is very vast. Traditionally, they say all beings without exception. So sometimes beginning with smaller groups, such as your family or community, or we'll move to like all women, all children, all animals before extending out, because, you know, we can, it's just a little bit hard to hold that sometimes, but that is kind of the idea, is that we want to offer loving kindness and compassion to all beings. So So we'll move on to actually doing the practice. These phrases are one version of the phrases of metta or loving kindness, and they can vary. You can really make your own phrases, but the idea is after cultivating that quality, you're offering to yourself these phrases silently to just be kind of, again, feeding, filling, and nourishing yourself. So, okay, I've been talking a lot. So I'm going to invite you to, once again, find a comfortable position and gently close your eyes if you're comfortable, or just have a soft gaze on the floor in front of you. And then be breathing in, just taking a few breaths. Imagine breathing into your heart center, right in the center of your chest, center of love, compassion, gentleness. If it's helpful, you can even place a hand on your heart. To begin to generate the feeling of loving kindness and compassion, I invite you to think of a person, a being. It can be a family member, friend, someone who, when you think of this person, they really generate that feeling of unconditional love. For me, it's always my grandma Clara, who was she just radiated love and light. For some people, finding that person is hard. It can be an animal, maybe your dog or your cat. It can even be that place in nature where you just felt that sense of connection. So just taking a moment to think of one being, human, animal, element of nature where you, when you think of it, can feel just a sense of real love, connection, that heart connection, unconditional love flowing from your heart to the heart of that being. Just begin to receive that, breathing in with the next few breaths. Imagine that with each breath you're filling with that energy and quality of unconditional love. And this is really the essence of loving kindness, of metta, is this quality. Buddha talked about it being like a mother's love for her only child. So that's the quality we're working towards cultivating. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it takes us time. Eventually, you may want to make what we call a circle of loving beings, so calling in other beings, which can be people you are connected to, or maybe even universal beings who you feel embody love and compassion, like Mother Teresa or the Dalai Lama. And once you cultivate that feeling of loving kindness and compassion, you can begin to offer the phrases to yourself, and I'll just say them aloud. You can repeat it silently to yourself. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free of suffering. May I have ease of well-being. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free of suffering. May I have ease of well-being. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free of suffering. May I have ease of well-being. Really just feeling that, noticing how it's felt to take a few moments to cultivate and offer yourself loving kindness and compassion. And then you can, when you're ready, just open your eyes or lift them, take a deeper breath, move your body. Wish we had more time to delve into the categories, but just wanted to give a taste of that. And I also want to say before we move on that sometimes, you know, we open and we connect with the heart and this quality, and it's easy, and sometimes it's challenging, and it's okay. It's just about noticing where we're at. That's part of self-compassion. And so to be gentle with yourself. I know a lot of times people say, oh, I can't meditate. And I think everybody can meditate. It's just a matter of exploring different practices. And so just to be gentle in that way and be open and curious. Sometimes we say have a beginner's mind when we're practicing meditation. The next topic we'll talk about is gratitude. Exciting that, again, we live in a time where science meets spirituality. Gratitude is, according to Angeles Arian, who is a wonderful cultural anthropologist. She studied cultures all around the world, and she found that gratitude is the most universally used spiritual practice. So that's pretty exciting. And today's science really tells us there's a lot of benefits to gratitude. So some of the benefits, as you can see, feeling happier and more optimistic, again, strengthening or stronger immune systems, yay, we need that. Reducing anxiety and depression, healthier behaviors, health maintenance. I love this list because it really relates back to those 5 essential self-care practices: getting more regular exercise, eating healthier, improved mental alertness, facilitating better sleep. I think many of us need that. I know I do. And then just overall better self-care, coping with stress and challenges, and that sense of connection, which we're going to move into next. Hopefully we have enough time to just get through a few more slides. Gratitude is a wonderful way to connect, create that sense of connection with self, others, and the world around us. So there's a lot of ways to practice gratitude. I want to just say, like, we think of gratitude as a feeling. Sometimes we offer gratitude, but to think of it as a practice, mindfulness, practice of meditation, however you may. So you may do a meditation. I might just take a minute to guide us through that. And then you can do a journal. A lot of people have a gratitude journal where you write, you know, maybe 3 things or 10 things a day. I was in a group where we'd do a monthly sharing, and we'd do the first of the month 1, and we'd go to 30 or 31 at the end. Simply reflecting, sharing with friends and family. So maybe, you know, as you're at the table eating, or just, you know, in a stressful time, that can be a wonderful time to share, or creating a gratitude sharing circle. I mentioned with the group I was in, we were kind of like an online group. But there's a lot of ways to do that. And on the spot, when you're having a hard time, that's a wonderful time, and you're stressed or worried, that's a time to stop and just, you know, name 3 things you feel grateful for. And it sometimes can have a pretty powerful shift. So let's take a moment actually, and I'll just invite you to close your eyes. Again, if you want to place your hand on your heart, and just think of something you feel grateful for in this moment. Just allow it to bubble up from the center of your heart. And just holding that in your awareness, call on one more thing that you feel grateful for. And then holding that one also in your awareness, inviting a 3rd thing, something else you feel grateful for right in this very moment. And just take a breath and feel how it feels to just feel those gratitudes. If you closed your eyes, you can open them. And if you'd like to, I invite you to put your gratitude, 1 or 2 or 3, in the chat. And just really encourage you to explore working with that. It's a simple practice that that can really create a shift in just a few moments. So we just have one more left. We did the practice, so I hope I'll have enough time to wrap it up. So connection is our third, cultivating connection. You know, certainly vital to our well-being, and particularly you know, when we're in the role of serving and supporting others, feeling that sense of connection is so important. And the compassion practices we're exploring are a way to cultivate that sense of connection. Certainly there's other practices, but we need to feel a sense of connection to practice compassion and self-compassion to support ourselves inwardly and outwardly. So again, I included that in the self-care because I feel like it's a vital piece of self-care that sometimes doesn't get explicitly identified. So cultivating connection, there's a lot of different ways. Any of the gratitude and loving kindness, other meditations will support that. For many people, it's spiritual practice in some way. Participating in a community, whether it's in your local community or social or spiritual. Co-visioning is a way of working with colleagues or people within your role or field, or have somewhat connection that you can really share what you're experiencing, and I encourage that. Certainly spending time with family or friends, accessing peer support or mentorship. Then there, you know, there's connecting with others, but really connecting with yourself, taking time, meditation, journaling, self-reflection, spending time in nature, using creative activities, music, art, and then journaling, really taking some time to connect. One of the self-compassion practices that's talked about is really journaling about your feelings. I call it a feelings inventory. It doesn't have to be paragraphs or sentences, just a list of everything I'm feeling in the moment, getting in touch with that, or writing a letter to yourself or others. So we did our meditation, thankfully, on nature, but just reminding you that that's something you can come back to and connect with in any moment, thinking of your place in nature, closing your eyes, imagining yourself there, really breathing in the energy of that place and the calm that comes from it. And as you practice that, you know, we think about going to the gym and it's really hard at the beginning and we can't lift the weight, and then we can, but we're sore, and then, you know, we get stronger and stronger. Meditation, mindfulness, compassion, all those practices are like, you know, building new muscles. So I encourage you to practice that as well. Okay, I think I'm a little over time, so I just put this slide here to share that integration is something that we all need as part of self-care and building resilience. The compassion practices really support that. And to think about that, you know, we go through all these different experiences, and are we taking time to integrate them, or are we just kind of pushing through? So, so there's some suggestions there. Thinking about what we need in body, mind, emotion, and spirit can be a great way to do that. To close, I wanted to share this quote by Charlie Chaplin, who's known for his comedy and humor, but also talked a lot about loving ourselves. He's known for some of his writings, and he said, "We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness." And so I leave you with that. It really hits on those three components of self-compassion, of mindfulness, common humanity, and kindness. So just really remembering, I hope you'll carry that away with you, and maybe just one little bit of practice. It can be just a few breaths, a few phrases of loving kindness, a gratitude, or connecting in nature that can begin to build your foundation and your well of compassion, so that you have that for yourself, within yourself, and you can extend it out to all those that you're working with. So thanks so much. There are a few more slides with resources, references, and my contact info feel free to reach out if we don't, if you'd like to connect in any way. Thank you.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
Yeah, I'm going to try and stop sharing. Let's see. I think I did it. Did I do it?
We can still see the slide, but actually, if you
Okay.
want to scroll to the slide with your contact information, people want to jot that down.
Okay. Oh, what happened? Let's see if I can find it. I don't know where it went.
No worries, we can share that at the end.
Okay.
We have time for just a couple of questions, and a reminder to the audience that everyone's going to stay muted, but if you have questions, you can type them into the question box at the right-hand side of the screen if viewing from a computer, or at the bottom of the screen if viewing from a phone. If we don't have time to answer your question today, we'll provide our contact information at the end for anyone who may wish to reach us. I do have a couple of initial questions. The first one is, and this comes from our audience, how can I find balance as a mental health professional, being a mom, fiance, and entrepreneur?
Yeah, I love that question, because when you hear it, you think, well, gosh, there's no way, right? It's a lot to hold. So I really, I got a little preview of that question, but I think the main thing that came to mind as I heard the question was that, yeah, if we think of all the things we have and that we hold, it feels impossible to cultivate or find balance. But it's actually really creating that inner balance that will allow us to hold all those things, and maybe with more ease. And so I really encourage you to just begin to practice. I know sometimes we think we don't have enough time, you know, to meditate or do yoga or whatever it is that is going to be that balancing piece. But it can just a few moments, and I hope maybe people experience that in some of the practices, that just, you know, maybe a minute or two, or even sometimes a few breaths. And as you begin to build that inwardly, your capacity to create that balance inside, that it's going to support you in creating the balance outside as well.
Thanks. And a second question is, how do you simultaneously recover from burnout and return to caregiving?
That's a good question. I want to say that you know, that's going to vary. We're, you know, I mentioned earlier, we're all similar and we're all unique, so people may need different things. There may be a time someone really needs to take some time off to recover from burnout, and sometimes that's possible and sometimes that's not possible. But hopefully there would be support if someone were really in a place where they needed that space from their, you know, whatever organization they're working with, as well as maybe, you know, getting support in family, from family and friends too. But also just, you know, again, remembering a little goes a long way in terms of cultivating some stillness inside to regenerate, and maybe setting better boundaries, or more boundaries when you need to kind of strengthen your container. You know, so sometimes and I think the tendency for people who are frontline workers and home is to kind of be very extended a lot of the time, and sometimes we do have to pull in, and maybe we have to let go of certain things so that we can just really replenish ourselves, so, and get support. I think that's really important too.
Thank you. And actually, I know, Deanna, I know we have some last kind of housekeeping things before we wrap up.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, Beth, for joining us this afternoon and giving us such wonderfully valuable information. And thank you so much, Gia, for volunteering your time this afternoon and helping us moderate this awesome discussion. So as a reminder, this webinar is recorded and will be emailed to registrants tomorrow. The webinar will also be uploaded to our website at www.namimd.org for anybody who was unable to attend today. We hope that this webinar has been really helpful for you this afternoon. At the end, we ask that you complete a short survey on all the aspects of this webinar that you felt were helpful, that you thought could be improved, and what you'd like to see in future webinars. We plan to continue hosting educational webinars and events, and this survey will really help determine how NAMI Maryland can best support you during this time. Also, as a reminder, we're partnered with Betterhelp to support our local healthcare workers by providing access to a free month of therapy. Betterhelp is convenient, private online therapy where you can talk to a licensed professional therapist at any time. If you are a healthcare worker, including mental health and or substance use provider, be sure to fill out the post-webinar feedback form to receive instructions and your discount code. Also, don't forget to join us for our next webinar, Introduction to Advocacy and NAMI Maryland's Policy Priorities. That's going to take place on Thursday, January 6th at 12 o'clock. This is your chance to learn about upcoming legislation, NAMI Maryland's public policy priorities, and to gear up for the upcoming legislative session and our virtual Advocacy Day. Remember, advocates like you allow us to lead rigorous and successful year-long policy and advocacy efforts, and we welcome your involvement. You can register now at the link in the chat. We wish you all a safe and healthy holiday, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us through our website, www.nami.org, or by phone at 410-884-8691 should you need additional resources and support. Again, thank you for joining us and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again, Beth, and thank you so much, Gia.
Thank you so much. And it was great to see people's gratitudes in the chat as well. I just had a chance to look. So, and I just want to say I'm grateful to NAMI for hosting me and to be here with all of you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Bye-bye now.